The Opel Manta A, produced from 1970 to 1975, was Opel's response to the growing demand for sporty coupés in Europe. Designed to compete with the likes of the Ford Capri, the Manta A combined sleek styling and practical engineering, making it a popular choice among sporty coupe driving enthusiasts. When the Manta A was introduced in 1970, it was Opel's second offering in the coupe segment, besides the Kadett Coupé, which would be made for another 2 years up to 1972, with the Kadett C being introduced the same year, with yet again another coupe variant available. Therefore, it wasn't the only coupe offering Opel had, but it was the biggest and most powerful one. Measuring at approximately 4 meters and 29 centimeters in length and 1 meters and 63 centimeters in width, the Manta A had a balanced stance, being around 10 centimeters bigger and having more and more powerful engine options to choose from than with the Kadett B, which was 4.19 meters in length and was the most powerful engine, being a 75 horsepower engine instead of the 19 horsepower for the Manta A. The Kadett C was also a lot different in a lot of ways, as up to 1975 there wasn't a more powerful version fitted in a Kadett C coupe than the 1.2S with 60 horsepower. Therefore, there wasn't any overlap between the two different models from Opel. The Manta A featured a classic two-door coupe body with a long hood and a short rear deck, embodying the sporty aesthetics of the era. Distinctive round taillights and headlights had a reminiscent of the Opel GT and added to its unique appearance. The front end showcased a slim, somewhat angry-looking grille flanked by dual headlights, giving it a purposeful look. Inside, the Manta A offered seating for 4 people, with front bucket seats providing good support. The dashboard was straightforward, featuring clear instrumentation and controls within easy reach. Higher trim levels, such as the Berlinetta, added touches like wood grain accents and upgraded upholstery, enhancing the cabin's ambience. The Manta A was available with a range of inline-4 engines and a very exclusive and rare 6-cylinder engine. It all started with the 1.2S also being available in the Kadett B and C, and this was available between 1971 to 1975, and it was introduced a year after the introduction of the Manta A. It had 60 horsepower, 88 Nm and a top speed of 145 km an hour, and it was basically an answer to the 1973 oil crisis. Basically, a lot of engines were produced after that period, as it was basically a very fuel efficient engine. It had a top speed of 145 km an hour, a 0 to 100 time of 18 seconds, and the fuel efficiency had approximately 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers. The following up engine was a 1.6 with normal petrol, producing 68 horsepower and 108 Nm. It wasn't that much faster, and it basically was aimed at a top speed of 154 km an hour, having a 0 to 100 time of 17 seconds and a fuel efficiency of 9 liters per 100 kilometers. This engine was available up to 1974 when a lot of engines were updated, as the 1974 to 1975 1.6N had 60 horsepower, being comparable to the 1.2S, also having 103 Nm of torque, 150 km an hour of a top speed, and the 0 to 100 time being even slower than the 1.2S with 18.5 seconds, while having a worse fuel efficiency of 8.8 liters per 100 kilometers on average. Of this engine, you also had the 1.6S, as the first model of this engine was available between 1971 and 1974 and offered 80 horsepower, 118 Nm of torque, giving the car an actually decent top speed of 164 km an hour and a decent 0 to 100 time of 14 seconds. The fuel efficiency also was lower than with the 1.6N at 8.6 liters per 100 kilometers. But also this engine was, taken care of, as since 1974 up to 1975, the last model year of the Manta A, the power output was decreased to 75 horsepower and 150 Nm of torque, giving the car a lower top speed of 160 km an hour and a worsened 0 to 100 time of 15 seconds instead of 14 seconds. while having a fuel efficiency of 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. The biggest engine, and also the engine that really made the difference between the Kadett B and the Manta A, was the 1.9S, as this engine wasn't available in the Kadett B. This engine was either available between 1971 and 1974 and 1974 and 1975. The 1971 to 1974 version, just like with the other engines, was more powerful and was rated at 90 horsepower and 146 Nm of torque, giving the car a very good top speed of 170 km an hour and 0 to 100 time of 13 seconds, being faster than the previous engines and having a comparable fuel consumption of 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. The 1.9S after 1974 was available up to 1975 and had 87 horsepower, 142 Nm of torque, but the same top speed of 170 km an hour and also the same 0 to 100 time of 13 seconds. Fuel consumption wise, this actually improved a bit at 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers. And in the same year as 1974, Opel introduced the 1.9 GTE, which was a fuel injected version, basically also being comparable to the Kadett C GTE, also introduced a year after that in 1975. This engine had 105 horsepower, 152 Nm of torque, giving the car a very good top speed of 188 km an hour. 0 to 100 time, it might not seem much in today's standards, but at the time 11.5 seconds from 0 to 100 was quite decent. And also the fuel efficiency didn't worsen that much, as it was 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. The transmission options included either a 4-speed manual and, for selected models, a 3-speed automatic. The automatic transmission mostly increased fuel consumption by around 0.5 liters per 100 kilometers and increased the 0 to 100 time by around 1.5 seconds. Besides the before also called 1.9 GTE, the Manta A also had very special versions, and some of them were introduced by Opel and others were produced by external parties. Opel itself introduced several special editions to cater to diverse customer preferences, such as the Berlinetta, which offered enhanced interior features including upgraded upholstery and additional trim elements, but also the GTE special editions, such as the Black Magic, which featured a black exterior with unique plate interior upholstery, and also the Swinger, which came in white with red stripes and a bright red fabric interior. You also had the Manta TE2800. Among the most legendary and rare versions of the Manta A was the Opel Manta TE2800, a high-performance variant created by Opel tuning specialist Irmscher, in collaboration with Belgian tuning engineering and engine expert Steinmetz. This car took the lightweight, stylish body of the standard Manta A and transformed it into a true performance machine. At the heart, it was a 2.8-liter inline-six borrowed from the Opel Commodore GS. This engine produced between 150 to 156 horsepower, being a lot more than the 1.9 GTE, and significantly increased the Manta's performance over the standard 4-cylinder variants. With this engine, the TE2800 could accelerate from 0 to 100 in about 7.6 seconds, which was almost 4 seconds faster than the 1.9 GTE, which was a remarkable figure in the 1970s, and it could reach a top speed of over 200 km an hour. Of the TE2800, approximately 27 units were made, making it an extremely rare and sought-after collection car today. Most of them were hand-built and sold through special channels rather than Opel's own dealerships. Besides the Opel in Europe, you also had the Manta in the US, just like the Kadett B at the time. When the Opel Manta A was launched in 1970, it wasn't only targeted at European buyers. Thanks to Opel's relationship with General Motors, the Manta was also sold in the United States through Buick dealerships, marketed simply as the Opel Manta. This gave American buyers a taste of German engineering in a compact, sporty package, which was basically an alternative to both domestic muscle cars and Japanese imports, although it wasn't a muscle car whatsoever. In the early 1970s, American consumers were becoming more conscious of fuel efficiency and affordability. especially in the wake of the 1973 oil fuel crisis. The Manta was positioned as stylish, efficient, and a good-looking coupe, more refined than a Vega made by Chevrolet and less raw than a Mustang made by Ford. Sold under the Buick Opel nameplate, the Manta was imported directly from Germany. Its sleek European styling and relatively tight handling made it stand out among domestic compact coupes. Most Opel Manta A models in the US were equipped with the 1.9-liter cam-in-head inline-4 engine, producing up to 90 horsepower from 75 horsepower, depending on emissions equipment and tuning. Compared to the smaller engines offered in Europe, the US Mantas were generally better equipped and more powerful, as some of the key features in the US included an automatic transmission, most of the time being a 3-speed automatic, also sometimes the federal spec bumpers, which were basically the larger and rubberized to meet safety standards, mostly being just the big American bumpers placed on cars during the 1970s and 80s. The Manta also had sealed beam headlights and side marker lights, which was mandatory in the US at the time. And for the emissions, also some modifications were made, which slightly reduced performance. The interior trim was often more upscale than the European base models, with some versions offering wood grain dashboard panels, full carpeting, and upgraded upholstery, basically like the Berlinetta would in Europe. Between 1970 and 1975, Opel manufactured approximately 498,553 units of the Manta A. Its combination of stylish design, practical performance, and affordability contributed to its popularity across Europe. Some of the key competitors, as said before, were the Ford Capri, either being the Mark I or the Mark II, which basically was the biggest competitor the car had. Since 1974, a new competitor also came into the market, made by Volkswagen, the Volkswagen Scirocco, which was introduced in 1974 and therefore, as 4 years after the introduction of the Manta A, was basically a less important competitor, as it was introduced a year before the discontinuation of the first generation of the Manta. Predecessor-wise, there wasn't really a direct predecessor, but most could be linked to the Opel Kadett Coupé, which was said before, somewhat comparable. It laid the groundwork for Opel's foray into sporty coupes. The successor was the Manta B, produced between 1975 and 1988, with multiple facelifts. Its updated styling continued the model's legacy until it was eventually succeeded by the Opel Calibra. In 2021, to celebrate the Manta's 50th anniversary, Opel unveiled the Manta GSE Elektromod, a modern electric reinterpretation of the classic coupe. This one-off model featured a 147 horsepower electric motor powering 255 Nm of torque and incorporated contemporary elements like a digital cockpit and sustainable materials, bridging the gap between heritage and innovation. Sadly, this remained to be a concept only and never made it into production. So yeah, basically the Manta died in 1988. Thanks for watching this video. In order to be able to upload more videos in the future, please consider becoming a member of my channel or sending a super thanks on this video. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and don't forget to check out this playlist with many interesting videos covering various parts of the automotive industry, and I will see you in the next video.